Hi everyone, I'm Neha Butcher, CEO of Atom11, ad automation software for Amazon brands and agencies. Welcome to yet another episode of AdVantage with Atom11. This is where we talk about all things Amazon. Today's topic is super close to my heart, and I'll tell you why. I think if you have watched any of AdVantage with Atom11 episodes, you will know that day parting is one of my favorite topics. I can talk about it for hours, about its advantages, about frameworks to use day parting. And not just that, I think the way that that data is shown, so many customer signals are available in the data. I just love it. So today our topic is actually going to be very, very close to day parting. It's not going to be that. So not going to be exactly day parting, but something very close to it. And you are going to find out very soon about it. But we are first going to start with a section number one, which is a short introduction of what's up with Atom 11. So, in the last few weeks, we have launched one of the most requested features by our customers on Atom 11, which is creating rules for placement bid optimizations. So now on Atom 11, you can actually set up your rules on, if my top of search is not performing well, increase or decrease your bid adjustments. But what is even cooler is that we actually have an option to just select highest spender. So you can say that in all the campaigns that I've selected, look at the highest spender out of top of search, rest of search, and placement, product placements, and see if the ACOS is um, less than or greater than a specific number, and take an action. I think that normally when people go to the placement page, this is the kind of data that they look at. So having that highest spender option is so convenient that now you don't have to create different rules for top of search and rest of search and product placements. You can just say highest spender, and there you go. You'll be able to set up your rules in one rule. You'll be able to set up a rule for everything, for all kind of campaigns. So I think that's a pretty cool feature, and I'd love to hear your comments on it. And in fact, even give you a demo if you're interested. But hit me up at neha@atom11.co, and we'll take it from there. All right, back to today's conversation. And without wasting any more time, I'm actually going to call upon our guest today, and then we'll introduce him. So, hey, Dustin, how are you?
Hey Neha, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I think for people who don't know, Dustin and I, we have actually met at two Prospers now, the Prosper Show at Vegas. And it is always fun to meet Dustin because, he comes with so many new tech, the lingo and enhancements that he has to talk about that I'm always, amazed. So it's always a good conversation with Dustin.
Yes, it always is. I'm really glad we got to connect during that last Prosper as well.
Yes, Dustin, I'd love for you to just very quickly introduce yourself to everyone, and then we'll get into deeper questions. I know you're a super familiar face to everyone, but I'm sure they'll love to know about more about you.
Sure. So I manage all of the product, build all of our internal tech at Btr Media, formerly known as Better AMS, and I've been there for about 2.5 years, and it's been just a joy being a self-taught developer there.
You're self-taught. You haven't taken computer science engineering.
I never have. No.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, star performance. Great. Lovely. So, Dustin, you've been associated with the space for a long time. And like I said, right, a lot of people know you already. But it'll be good to know what got you into the Amazon space and what got you interested in the PPC world.
Sure, I love telling the story. So I got started around end of 2015. Like many people in that time wanted to do the digital nomad, be your own boss thing. My wife and I homeschool our kids, so I just wanted to be, here with the family all the time. Started getting into Amazon, launching Shopify stores, Etsy, eBay, whatnot, and eventually gravitated more towards the private label end of things. Tried RA, OA, and eventually got more into even manufacturing our own products here in house.
Oh, wow.
So when you're manufacturing products, you obviously have a little bit more complexity. You have to manage the raw materials, work in progress, along with how much inventory you're sending in of everything. And I just gravitated toward building VBA scripts to automate all of this. And in the process, was really drawn towards the advertising end of the business. So at one point, I think around late 2017, started managing other people's advertising accounts, along with managing brands that some of them we still have going today. And just thought, you know what, this VBA is fun. I'm able to apply it really well to the advertising accounts and my business, but I really want to take it further so that this isn't just restricted to one local machine where I'm running my Excel files. So I thought, okay, I'll teach myself Python and eventually learned SQL and eventually learned how to use AWS to actually deploy the apps to and cross paths almost 2.5 years ago with some of the leadership at Btr AMS at the time. They said, we need somebody with your exact skill set who can speak to the strategy of advertising and brand management, but also understands the tech portion of things really well. And the rest is history.
So you do both product and tech?
I do.
Oh, wow. That is a first. I mean, I come from a FANG background, been with Amazon 6 years. Never really seen that because it's really hard to, be in product, decide your roadmaps and then also develop them. So that's the first.
Yeah, and it's great working with such highly strategic people because not only do I get to work with them to have the synergy, but I can also come up with a lot of the ideas, plan out the roadmaps of them, and then implement them myself, or starting to build out a small team of developers underneath me so that I can focus more on the strategic aspect of things and not be buried in trying to debug code.
Dustin, when it's impossible that you and I are meeting and we're not talking about the one thing that both of us love the most, which is Amazon hourly data, right? So Amazon recently launched, not recently, but some time ago, they launched their hourly customer data for sponsored products. And you and I have actually had a lot of discussions around how this data can be used, the use cases, so on and so forth. And I know that you have a lot of ideas around that. And I think if I were to say or distinguish how you and I talk about Amazon marketing stream or the hourly data, is that you talk a lot about the upstream, which is how this data is, we can take this data and how we can use this data in the most efficient manner. And out I talk about it in the downstream, which is how do we make use of this data for our PPC.
Hmm.
Right, so I think that's where if you and I are talking, I think it's just we have to talk about Amazon marketing stream and
Of course.
how people can actually use this data. In fact, I think one of the things that I would mention about this podcast is that not only it is a good to watch for all brands and sellers, but I think it's a must watch for software providers, because I think Dustin is going to be talking a lot about how software providers can use this data and use it well. So, well, let's get started. I think just to set up context, let's talk about what is AMS and why is it a game changer.
So AMS, Amazon Marketing Stream, is a game changer, I think, for a few reasons. First of all, it offers us the hourly data that did not exist prior. So if you were going to act on day parting, you really had to do it by intuition or by metrics that were less reliable. So, for instance, there are reports that you can get in the ad console that tell you when a sale took place. But the important
Yeah.
thing about Marketing Stream is it attributes the sales to the time of the click. Because if you day part based on the time of the sale, if somebody's clicking on ads at 8 in the morning, they end up making the purchase at 6 at night when they get home. You may actually end up killing times where your ads are best running without even realizing it. Amazon Marketing Stream actually reconciles this for you. And also, before the podcast, when we were discussing this, you had actually corrected me, pointing out that there is now hourly data within the ad console, which I appreciate you pointing that out. But I did take a look at it, and I do still feel that Marketing Stream is better because, unlike what you see in the ad console, the Marketing Stream data actually breaks out the target's performance per hour per placement. So,
Yes.
unlike anywhere else in the ad console, you can actually see a sponsored product's target top of search performance. usually we can only see this in sponsor brands in the reporting, and we have to do some artistic manipulation of the data to try to adjust top of search placements and product page placements, etc. So I think those are significant. The other one that I would mention is a software developer who built out data pipelines is that it it increases the efficiency of the pipeline by magnitudes. And we can get into this a little bit later because I think that this is something that a lot of people aren't really discussing with Marketing Stream because the intuitive benefit is the day parting data, but there actually is this enormous benefit of integrating it into your pipeline as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think, and that's exactly you're right. I think you mentioned that there are two different use cases. One is the use case which is what everyone knows about, which is day parting, and then there is another one for softwares. So why don't we just break this entire discussion and talk about it in two ways? One, the use case for an Amazon brand or seller, and the second one is the use case for an Amazon software provider. And then we actually discuss what is it in it for, how does a Amazon brand or seller or an agency use it, and then we come to the software developer part. So let's start with the agency and the brand. What do you think is the use case for a brand for AMS, and how can they use it best?
Sure. So, two actionable use cases that any account manager is going to be used obviously is the day parting, which we've already touched on pretty heavily. You can actually see the hourly performance of how the ad is performing. You can incorporate bid ops. One of the other areas is budget adjustments. So, you can actually get notifications every 5% that a campaign has run out of budget. So, I made a post on LinkedIn with a hypothetical use case for this where during tentpole events, if you have ranking campaigns where you're trying to drive a lot of sales, you're going to want to know how those are in budget or not in budget throughout the day. And you could set up a system where when you get a notification of, say, 80% used, it could send you a Slack DM or send the account manager a Slack DM saying, hey, you want to take a look at this. So I see the budget recommendations also as being very beneficial.
Yeah, and I think budget recommendations is mostly, you're right, for tent poles, but day parting is the major use case when it comes to, um, and I think why, right? Because there are so many different signals that we get on the advertising console. This is the only data that actually gives you signals on customer availability, right? When is the customer most available and most interested in shopping, or high intent shopping is happening, right? For example, if you see, a lot of people have shown this data where they say, Mondays and Wednesdays are great for sales when it comes to US, right? And still, I actually hear a lot of times that people say that I don't want to use day parting because in US there are so many different time zones. I don't know, when I'll get my sales. So what do you have to say to that?
Well, I mean, if you look at the day parting messages that you receive, they come with the time zone that everything is taking place. It's all based on how many hours off of UTC. So you can see clearly when the click that drove the sale ultimately in the last touch attribution model, when that actually took place.
Hmm.
So if you're trying to run campaigns where you're driving profitability, where you have an ACOS focus, I do think that it is advantageous to either, there are two approaches that people can take that I've heard of, either going dark during certain hours, during certain days, or doing an actual bid ops system on an hourly basis where you could take your same bid ops formulas that you would do normally and just do them once every hour. They do have pros and cons to each that if you like, we can get into. It does get a little bit nuanced, but I would say that if you're running profitability campaigns, there's really no reason not to at least explore day parting.
Absolutely, I agree with you. But yeah, I would love to know exactly what are the kind of nuances you wanted to talk about.
Sure. So the big one I think is data scarcity. And what you run into here is if you're dealing with, like, let's call them mid tail and long tail targets and keywords, if you have, say, let's just keep it easy, 60 clicks a month on a longer tail target, So that's on average 2 a day. Now you have to divide that into 24 hours. So if you're going to do bid ops on an hourly basis, there are a lot of targets that say in the 2 a.m. window, you may have no clicks. You may have one or two clicks. It's just such a small amount of data that it's hard to make intelligent bid ops decisions off of it. And so that's something that I think you need to factor into your wireframe when you design an hourly bid ops system before you do that. The other nuance is if you go the other route and then go dark, where you just say, okay, the 2 a.m. window isn't really working that well for me. So that's a little bit more blunt of approach. It will definitely work, but what happens is after say 30, 60 days, when you go to look at your past performance, you'll have no data in that window because you've shut that whole window off.
Yeah.
So there are benefits to doing the day parting, but these are just things that I would mention to people. Hopefully you can factor this in so you don't run into these problems. And then ultimately, the thing that I mentioned to a lot of people is that over time, eventually, I think it should equilibrate where when enough people are doing day parting, the benefits of day parting off in the early hours should drop. CPC should drop. Evening, afternoon CPC should rise, and you should see more of a flat ROAS across the day as more people
Um,
get into it.
Yeah. So here's what I think about this topic, right? That if enough people are using it, will something like this happen? So I have a very simple framework when it comes to day parting, which is that day parting needs to be reset every two to 3 months.
Hmm.
What that means is that, let's say today you have set up your day parting, and you will start seeing that you are spending low on certain times of the day and spending high on more productive hours of the day. But like you said, a lot of people will be using it. So after some time, you will see that the ROAS of campaigns where you have, or ACOS of the campaigns which you have put in day parting, it will start increasing. The ACOS will start increasing, which means that something has changed in the customer behavior or in the campaign structure that you have, the way that you have set up your day parting campaign. And that's why it's important after 2 months that you shut off your day parting, let data come in for every single hour again for 2 weeks, recalibrate, and then restart again.
I
Because
wholeheartedly agree.
yeah, so this is one thing that competition is probably not going to do, because they're lazy. They want to just set up day parting. They think day parting is set it and forget it. Day parting is not set it and forget it. In fact, that's the reason on Atom 11 we actually give you an evaluate button to evaluate the ROAS of campaigns pre day parting and then post day parting. And then
Hmm.
for every week it is on, you can actually see how the ROAS is going. And then we've seen it in multiple cases that after 2 3 months, you're right, the ACOS actually starts increasing. And so then there's no other way than rather than actually pausing day parting, again letting the data recalibrate, and then again figuring out what is working and setting up a new day parting campaign accordingly.
Hmm. No, I agree. As the marketplace changes and more people are either less people are showing up at the ad auction, that's going to change the price of the ad auction. So the hourly data is going to change. So I definitely agree with shutting it off.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. Now, this was for the sellers and agencies and brands and how they are setting up day party. Do you ever see any mistakes that people do while they're setting this up? And before we move on to the software providers, just wanted to know if you've seen anything that people don't understand about day parting or have a myth that you want to clear.
I feel like we just discussed all of those as far as the data scarcity, the lack of data if you go dark. So I feel like we covered all the ones that I would have mentioned.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Cool. So then let's move on to how can brands and sellers and agencies use this data? Where do they find it, and how can they use it?
So all of the marketing stream data is found in the Amazon Ads API, and that's the only place that you can get it. And to
Mhm.
get just a little bit more technical, traditionally, when you request data from the API, you would build a request, you send it, and then you get a response back of, say, all the targets in the account, all the campaigns, etc. Marketing stream is a little bit different because you only send one request. You don't have to send them repeatedly every single day to get your newest performance data. You send one request to say, I want to subscribe this brand to the sponsored products marketing stream data set. And then every time an impression is served, a click is done, a sale is done, it sends a message to a, let's just say, an inbox at AWS. And so you just monitor that inbox and just pull the messages as they come in.
Correct. Right. And do you think there's some kind of a framework as to who should be using day parting or who should not be? For example, in terms of advertisers spending X dollars a month or advertisers focusing on something versus another objective.
I mean, unless you're a brand that has no focus on profitability or efficiency, which I personally have never seen, even our largest brands, our enterprise brands that have a lot of ranking and awareness campaign and a lot of DSP spend, they still have segments of the account that they are trying to run efficiently. And so long as you have those, I'm yet to see any accounts that are so small that it wouldn't benefit at least experimenting with day parting to some extent.
I love it. I just love the sound of this statement. In fact, we created a framework some time ago, and I'm going to post the framework in the comment section here. Again, something that was picked up by a lot of people. They loved what we had posted about the day parting framework. One of the first mathematical frameworks that we had put out for day parting. And I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. There is literally no brand that will not benefit from day parting.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Now I want to move to your arena, which is how can a software provider actually use the Amazon marketing stream? What are the mistakes that software providers actually make when they're using this data? What do they miss out on? So tell us all about it.
Yeah, this is the thing I think that you opened your eyes to when we were in Prosper talking about Marketing Stream, because there's a section of it that a lot of people don't really use, which is the stream signals section.
Yeah.
Or maybe they do, but you just don't hear it talked about as much. It's not very exciting, but when you build a data pipeline, you need to pull in, imagine you need to pull into your database all of the campaign data. So every day you need to request a list or a snapshot of all of the campaigns, their names, their budgets, their placement modifiers, all of the ad groups, their default bids, the targets, any new targets that are there, their current bids, if their status is paused, enabled, etc. And what you find is that often, if I pull a campaign's data today, put it in the database, and then I pull it again tomorrow, almost none of it has changed. It's not
Mhm.
like the campaign has an enormous number of campaign name changes. You might get placement modifiers that change, but a lot of it, the campaigns are all the same status, the names are all the same, everything's basically the same. So with stream signals, what you can do is on every entity level, campaign, ad group, product, ad, target, instead of having to pull this every day, you basically subscribe to these data sets in stream where you say, send me a message to that, we'll call it an inbox at AWS, every time that there is a change to each of these entity types. So rather than having to request all 50,000 campaigns, it's just going to say, okay, this one campaign had a change, its name was updated. And so you just
Yeah.
monitor this inbox and then update your database accordingly. This is extremely beneficial because it's taking a huge load off your data pipeline. It's using the API in a way that I believe Amazon wants us to lean more into. One of the biggest difficulties as a developer as well with the ads pipeline, different than the SP API, is the throttling, because it gives you no throttling specifics in the documentation. It's basically like, hey, you're requesting too much.
Yeah.
This is different all throughout the day. It's different from 2 a.m. versus 2 p.m. versus Mondays versus Wednesdays. So to reduce the amount of traditional API requests that you need to make and leaning on this stream where you're sending it to the SQS is definitely advantageous if you're building data pipelines.
So, but tell me one thing. I think when you said, right, that you can actually miss out on certain things or leave out of certain things when you are downloading it on a daily basis and just use the pull mechanism of Amazon Marketing Stream to pull those signals like campaign name and other settings, right? But when you are downloading snapshots and you're downloading those APIs, most of these things automatically they come in, right? Like you cannot leave out one row or one column, and like, will how much of an advantage will it give me in terms of data? that I'm downloading every single time? Or you think that the main advantage is not the data download, it is basically the throttle?
The main advantage is that you are not requesting, pulling, downloading, and analyzing an enormous amount of data that is essentially static.
Hmm.
Because even when you're pulling in, say, targets, the only thing that really ever changes with targets, sometimes the status will change. The bid is probably going to change every day. But as far like ad groups, they basically never change. I mean, people
Yeah,
typically don't pause ad groups and they don't change the
exactly.
name of them or the default bid. But
Yeah.
in order to keep your data pipeline and your database up to date, you still do need to get them every day. If people launch new campaigns, you need to get the list of the new ad groups that were launched as well. If somebody archives a campaign, it automatically archives the ad group. You need to know all these things. So rather than pulling, across 80 accounts that we manage at Btr Media, I don't need this frees the pipeline up of having to pull any of this. And now I just get an occasional message or two that processes in, half of a second, sending to the SQSQ. So that to me is where the huge benefit is here.
Are there any other mistakes that software providers make when they are, or are there anything? Is there anything else that they are not using Amazon Marketing Stream to their full potential when they are pulling in data?
No, I think that we're covering pretty much all of the use cases. I think a lot of people aren't going to integrate the streams because they might have a data pipeline provider already. But if you do build that out, I would definitely say explore it.
Hmm. Got it. Tell me one more thing. Is there some kind of an SOP or documentation that you guys maintain, which you could share with our users as a giveaway or something, where they could look at this and say, I'm a software provider, I'm going to be integrating Amazon Marketing Stream to my data, or I have already integrated Amazon Marketing Stream, and maybe this is the way I can improve it.
I do have some documentation that goes into a lot more easier interpretation of the API. So it's kind of like a quick cheat sheet. It does cover the marketing stream data as well. And I can definitely provide you with that for your listeners. And it's also in my LinkedIn profile. If you go there, there's a permanent link in it as well. So
Awesome. So I think what we're going to do is that, I'm going to put in Dustin's LinkedIn profile in the comment section below. And please feel free to write to Dustin and get an access to the Amazon Marketing Stream cheat sheet, which can
mm,
actually help you not only save on your data pipeline loads, but also just use Amazon Marketing Stream data much, much more efficiently than you are using it today. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I hope that you do it, and otherwise, we can also put in a link of a Google sheet, or the link of that thing on our on the comment section here.
that sounds
Perfect.
cool.
I just want to talk about one last thing. Is there anything about Amazon Marketing Stream or any kind of case study that you have seen where yourself, just reducing the data pipeline load that you guys have had in the past versus now managing the same kind of spend, or just improvement in the way you have managed? Any metrics that you can talk about?
I don't have any off the top of my head that we've done case studies on. I've seen some
Okay.
lift as far as like maybe up to 15% decrease in ACOS. It varies across brands. It varies across the category, and it also differs on the kind of implementation you're doing with day parting. But one thing that I would also mention is that if you build a chart, I've made posts on this before showing the vast difference in conversion rate and CPC in the early mornings of, say, 2 to 3 a.m. And how CPC is significantly higher because
Yeah.
everybody's budgets are now resetting for the day. Everybody's showing up to the ad auction. CPCs are driven up at a time where the conversion rate and the amount of shoppers is the lowest. Coincidentally, it's exactly backwards from what you would want. But the caveat that I would point out is if you map out your total spend per hour, typically these earlier mornings are lower spend hours anyways. So although you can make the account run more efficiently and shift that spend to a more efficient hourly window, I wouldn't expect it to like completely revolutionize the account because there's only so much spend you can shift from 1 to 3
Absolutely.
a.m. So it is just something I would just mention just so you don't get your hopes up too much.
You are so right. I think in one of the videos that we did, one of the first episodes of AdVantage with Atom11, we actually showed an account which was spending low during the early morning hours, but has the highest conversion. So it also depends on the product that you are selling,
Mm,
right? When is your customer most, active? And we showed them that, there were hours of, between 7 to 11 p.m., which is when their conversions were the lowest. And basically, in those cases, what makes sense is not pausing your ads early in the morning when your conversion is high, even though your spend might be low or your CPCs might be high, but pausing them between 7 to 11 p.m., which is when your conversions are the lowest, your ACOS is high, and your spend is also high, right?
mm.
Because that's where it's actually going to make an impact. That's where day parting is going to make an impact. And you're going to see an impact on your ACOS. So very, very well said. In fact, I was actually wondering if it is going in the direction of you suggesting that, pause your ads in the midnight. But I just love it that, you actually caught the right point and said, hey, not everyone will benefit from pausing it in the midnight. In fact, maybe no one will, because the spends are so low at that time.
Yeah, if those are your inefficient windows that you want to pause, you can cut that spend off. But I found it to be like single digit percentages of the total spend throughout the day, so it's not really
Yeah,
that big of an amount.
exactly. Lovely. Well, I think for me in today's discussion, I learned three main things. One, of course, just that even the biggest agencies are using day parting, in a way that um, is not, it's changing, right? It's not in the way that was traditionally done, looking at data and really figuring out what time is your conversion the lowest and the spend the highest. So using those frameworks and then putting in the day parting rules or campaigns. So that is one. I think it's a pretty good validation of how we've been proposing day parting to our customers. Point number two is how day parting is used by software providers. In fact, I think we are probably going to go and make some changes to how we are not using Amazon Marketing Stream to its fullest potential, and we've actually been doing exactly the same mistake that you were talking about. So we were downloading all of these campaign settings and campaign names on a daily basis through snapshots and APIs. But why not use it, and make full use of Amazon Marketing Stream? And the third point is, just debunking myths, right? That, when you're running day parting, do not fall for the traditional pointers that we have mentioned in the past. Use data and use it effectively. I think three great points. And that kind of brings us to the end of this episode. But I'm not going to end it without a very, very fun rapid fire section. So this, Dustin, is a very cool section that we do. It's 5 minutes. You get 5 seconds. You get 5 seconds to think about the answer to my question, and then you can answer it for as long as you want. But you have to be rapid and you have to be very fiery. Are you ready?
I'll be as fiery as I possibly can.
Yeah, great. I think you'll do good. Lovely. So let's get started. Okay, a day without coding or a day without PPC?
100% day without PPC.
Really? Oh
Oh
my
yeah.
God. Oh, wow. Love it. Hey, what's going to happen to sales?
As far as what if I don't do PPC?
Yeah,
Well, if you have the right tech, you don't need to do PPC every day, right?
that's true. That's true. If Amazon agrees to grant you one feature wish, one feature that you can ask from them, what would it be?
One feature off the top of my head, SERP data. If I could see the search
Okay.
engine results page where I'm ranking, where my product is ranking on the page for a certain search term, as far as the organic placement and the ad placement. And if that came through Marketing Stream, that would be a dream come true.
Oh my God, I think you just asked for too much. What does Amazon have to say to this? I say to this. Have you ever asked them?
I actually have. When we have our product meetings with our tech rep, I bring this up. I wouldn't say every time, but they take note of it. They're very interested, but we're yet to see any betas of it. So
Yeah,
keep my fingers
I'm
crossed.
sure. Um, I think there is a couple of services. I think maybe I can talk to you after this meeting. I think there are a couple of services that you can use, and I think you might be able to use it for free. So let me talk to you after this the podcast.
Sure.
What is your favorite sales hack about Amazon?
Favorite sales hack. So I don't know if this is terms of service anymore because I haven't been in the brand growth arena in a while. But when we were building rustic home decor specifically, and a few of the other brands that we launched, I was paying a young gal that I go to church with. She was writing handwritten letters for every customer. We would
Oh,
send them snail mail until we got to about 25 reviews, and this absolutely crushed it. I mean, our reviews, people mentioned they loved getting an actual legitimate handwritten letter. So again, I don't know if it's terms of service anymore. I don't even know if you can find the customers' addresses. This was kind of back in the day, but it worked amazing.
oh, it always works. I think Amazon still gives sellers this data, as to what is your shipping address, etc. But I think, yeah, I mean, this information is great because in the age of AI, when everything is started to sound so commoditized, like even
Yeah.
content is becoming commoditized. I think handwritten letters are going to work wonders. So
It worked, and I would call myself the chief happiness officer in the letter. I made it really fun and lighthearted. It was only 3 sentences, but it worked so well.
yeah, oh, lovely. Um, what is that one sales advice or even PPC advice that you scoff at
From Amazon,
from anyone?
well, from Amazon, their budget suggestions always make me chuckle.
I think their budget suggestions as well as their bid suggestions because it's just so off the mark. It sometimes just makes me laugh.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
in fact, I think there have been a couple of customers who asked us that in your bid recommendation engine that you have on Atom11, do you just pull in the same bid recommendations that Amazon suggests? Because if that is it, then we don't want it. You were like, no, no, that's a proprietary algorithm that we have. And oh God, it was funny. Awesome. Three people that you follow for Amazon tips and tricks on a daily basis.
3 people. Well, I mean, I have to do a shameless plug of the owner of our company, Destiny Wassner. I mean, she's one of the lead strategists in the space, so definitely somebody that everybody should follow on here. I do really like Gloria Steiner and Jack Lindberg as well. They get a lot of AMC
Yeah.
content,
Yeah.
and I'm really gravitating towards that part of the space right now. It's what I want to invest a lot more of my time into personally, because I feel like that's kind of the future of where Amazon's headed. So I would recommend following those two as well if you have any interest in Amazon Marketing Cloud.
Lovely. And you know what? I have to say this Destiny is, I think, by far, I have not had an episode where I've had a guest. And when I ask this question, Destiny's name is always there. So I don't think I'm surprised. And on AMC, I just have one more question. So what do you think? AMC is, we should definitely have a podcast on AMC, by the way, because I don't understand a lot of it yet. I mean, we're going to get there, but maybe, we should have that podcast. And probably for people who don't understand AMC, just like me, like they're complete noobs, right?
Hmm.
But before that, don't you think AMC is something which is only for the top 5% of advertisers at this point? Like only top 5% are running DSP. So, like how do you think is going to benefit the rest of the 95%?
I would have to agree with you that it is definitely something. I mean, you need to have DSP running to even be eligible for it, or I think plan to be running it in some period in the future. So if you're not doing that, you'll probably have to just do window shopping and wish that it was available. There is a new API available though in the ads API called traffic signals. I haven't been
Mhm.
able to experiment with it because unlike all other APIs, this is actually being rolled out first, I think, to the UK with a DSP account. And because we
Yeah,
don't personally manage any of those, we only have DSP accounts that are in Canada and the US. I haven't been able to experiment with it, but it looks like a far more accessible version of basically a watered down version of AMC as far as the traffic signals go. So I would point people to that.
oh, interesting. Oh, I would love to know a little bit more about this. Okay, last question. This is going to be grade 7 maths. What is the Pythagoras theorem?
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
What is C?
C is the hypotenuse.
Okay, good. Great. So you pass grade 7 20 years later. Lovely. Dustin, I don't even have to say how much fun I had discussing Amazon Marketing Stream, understanding so many new things from you about it. So many things that we didn't know absolutely about anything about. Just validating a few things that we've been doing and, seeing that, you guys are doing it in the same way. So I think that's a great validation. Lovely having you over. And I hope that we can do this again,
Mhm.
podcast on Amazon Marketing Cloud.
Yes.
Again, something that, I'm still learning about.
That would be awesome. It was an absolute blast getting to talk with you.
Same here, likewise. Awesome. So I'm going to put Dustin off stage and we'll do a very quick 1 minute dialogue and then I'll get back to you, Dustin. Well, that was Dustin Wassner, everyone. I think we had a blast of a conversation, learning about so many different things. Like I said in the conversation, I'm going to be putting in a few things or a few links for you to use after this conversation. Just like one is Destin's information, second is the departing framework that Atom11 has built, and something that people have really talked very good things about in terms of how it performs. And the last one is Dustin's cheat code for how to use Amazon Marketing Stream data for software providers. So that's it from us this week. Next week, we are going to have a new guest with a lot of new learnings. Until then, happy advertising.